Now, you talk about the stages of change, which I think is so important because parents are often tearing their hair out, trying to motivate their children. So can you tell us a little bit about the stages of change?
This is really important to understand the process of how people change. And when I learned about this myself on this model that was built by Dr. Jim Petraska out of University of Rhode Island, it helped me to understand that sometimes we're making progress when we don't even know we are, because we've made progress from a stage of no way, I'm not doing this, this is stupid, to maybe I would like to do this, maybe I could even do it. And that itself is already a shift. In fact, that is a shift from stage one, what's called pre-contemplation, it's before I've even thought about it, to stage two of contemplation. I'm thinking about change. And I can go through the rest of the stages with you, but the essential point, I think, for all of your, the people that follow you is it's amazing to think that we sometimes believe that our kids or even we ourselves are not making any change because, well, I haven't lost any weight yet, or the grades haven't changed, or all these things are kind of the fruit at the end. But meanwhile, the tree is growing and there are changes happening. So these stages, just to put them succinctly, are pre-contemplation, no interest, don't see the problem yet. It's my mom that's the problem. Stage two, contemplation, I'm thinking about it. I know there's something to do. I would like to change, but I also kind of like it where I am right now. And then stage three, which is preparation. I am definitely changing and soon, and I'm getting ready to. And then there's action, and then there's maintenance if you've been in the action phase of actually adopting the change. And then over time, you've maintained long enough that you really, we call it graduation. You're ready to move on. You've got this.
Now, I'm going to guess that a large portion of people watching this talk are at stage one. And I imagine that's the hardest because there's no momentum yet. How do we get going on this path?
Let me give you a bit of good news first, because that's kind of exciting. So the good news is most of us are at different stages for different things. So for example, it might be that I'm at a pretty ready to change place when it comes to something like, taking notes more effectively. But when it comes to doing an, abs workout and going to Pilates class, pre-contemplation, no, not at all. So it depends on the issue. And even within school, there are places where you'll see kids be fairly receptive, and then we think, well, why can't they be like that with everything? And it's because we're complicated. It's not the same for everything. So in terms of the pre-contemplation stage, though, when we're working with our own kids about the challenges that they're facing and they're saying, no way, really need to begin with accepting the spot that they're in. And that's tough because, we want to see a change. We want to see a visible change, and we want to see it now. And we know we have a great solution. Why don't they just do this? But they're not there. And so in those early stages, it's things like empathy and normalization and knocking before entering. So rather than saying, we need to talk, this is important, instead of that, it can be, hey, knock, knock, is this a good time to talk? I've got something we need to talk about. Would this be a good time, or would you rather do it over the weekend?
Do we also call this stage resistance? Kind of
you can definitely call it resistance. Pre-contemplation is avoidance, resistance, all of that.
So we're having off to probing their world, asking permission.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Yeah, so the normalization step is a good one too. It's a good technique. When our kids say something like, I'm so stupid, because they may feel that way, even if they are told over and again that they're smart in many situations. Now they've hit a wall that they don't know how to get around or climb over or push through. They don't know how to do this. It's out of their skill set. Normalizing that's really helpful. And even though they may feel like they're the only one, and even if they're not, even if some other kids may not have that obstacle, it's really worthwhile to say, this is something that I know other people struggle with too. that must mean that there are some solutions out there too, when you're ready. And maybe today is not the day to try to solve it. But I don't blame you for your frustration. So you see how you're kind of blending a little bit of empathy. I don't blame you. I understand how frustrated you are. And it's kind of normal, and there's nothing wrong with you for struggling here. And is this a good time to talk? Or, so those 3 techniques will get you 75 to 90% of the way there most of the time. I can give you another 12 techniques, but that's maybe a little much for today.
Okay, then you talk about working in 4 stages with kids. Reach, teach, reflect, and release. Do they have to be in a certain readiness to change to go into those 4 stages?
Oh, Debbie, that is spot on the question. So it really is, we say R before T. I mean, you can go with the reach, teach, reflect, release, but especially reach before teach. So reaching means that you've established that relationship. I'm just picturing this kid that I worked with at his home, and his mom said, "Today's not going to be a good day." I said, "How come?" She said, "I don't think he'll even open the door for you. He's just in a terrible mood. He's very upset with one of his teachers." So I knocked on his door, and he said, "I'm not opening the door." And I said, "Okay, do you mind if I just sit here?" Long pause. "I don't care. Do you want to talk about it?" "No." But then I said, "Do you want to tell me why you don't want to talk about it?" And amazingly, that worked. I said, "Any chance you want to tell me why you don't want to talk about it?" And he said, "Yeah, this teacher is just so rude to me, so judgmental. I really hate, blah, 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 blah." And so he did want to talk about it. He just didn't want to feel like I made him talk about it. So that reach, I wouldn't have even literally gotten in the door to work with him on organizing his backpack, preparing for his test, all the things that we would normally focus on, until the reach was there. So it really is reach before teach.